26, 2025. I am joined by my colleagues, Vice Chair Commissioner Joe Carollo, District 1 Commissioner Miguel Gabella, District 2 Commissioner Damian Pardo, and our newest Commissioner, Ralph Rafael Rosado, District 3. I'm not going to call you new at our next commission meeting. You'll be old then. We've gotten over our new shiny toy with you. So thank you all for coming again, and let's get going. Where did we leave off?
I think with SR1.
SR1.
Are we on SR1?
We're going to try to expedite it.
Mr. City Attorney, would you please read the title into the record for SR1?
Yes, Madam Chair. SR1, second reading ordinance, an ordinance of the Miami City Commission pursuant to sections 100.3605 parentheses 2, 101.75 parentheses 3, and 166.021 parentheses 4 Florida statutes amending Chapter 16 of the Code of the City of Miami, Florida, as amended City Code titled Elections, more particularly by amending Section 16-2 of the City Code titled Same, Holding of City Elections Straw Ballot, to change the date of the general election from November 4, 2025 to November 3, 2026, and to change the date of all subsequent elections, providing for the extension of existing terms of office, containing a severability clause, and providing for an immediate effective date.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
For what?
For discussion. I have a motion and a second for discussion. I would think that you guys might want to pull this for discussion.
Yes.
I'm sorry. It's a motion and a second for discussion. I thought it was in the agenda for discussion.
What?
What do you
SR1?
need? Huh?
No, well, I don't think we're ready to vote on it. I think you guys would want to have some moments of discussion. So I have a motion and a second.
For discussion only. So
Then I would need another motion?
yes.
I understand. So I have a motion and a second for discussion only.
Can I go ahead and open?
I need to approve.
It's not necessary to have the motion in second, so we can just begin discussion.
Commissioner Pardo?
Yeah. So just going back to what this actually does, it moves elections from odd years to even years. Voter participation goes from an estimated 10 to 15% to a 60 to 65%, and that is huge. We know we save millions of dollars over time. We know 28 of the 34 municipalities in Miami-Dade County are already on the general election cycle. We know that there is voter support for this. On the campaign, people were constantly asking me about this. The polling indicates that there's broad support even with the additional year issue. We have thousands of petitions we've received in the city of Miami asking us to make this change. I wanted to take a couple of seconds just to discuss some of the objections that came up during public comment. A few folks were saying that we were canceling an election. We are not canceling an election. There is a 2025 election that is happening that will contain ballot initiatives, but the elected officials moved to 2026. There was also a discussion about how there's a runoff, how this might help in the primary, but it's going to not be effective at all in a runoff. Well, first of all, in our office of mayor, it's been 16 years since we've ever even had a runoff. So these are only the elections that actually go to a runoff. And even when they do go to a runoff, it's intuitive. And some people have cited a 2 to 3 times greater participation versus 4 to 5 when you're in the general, in the primary, not the runoff. I wanted to mention, I wanted George, if you could, you and your staff address 2 of the big issues that are also out there, which is one, that it's illegal, that we have this battle of legal opinions. And go ahead with that first, and then if you could address the additional year and why we have to do an additional year. It doesn't matter if we do this now or if we do this 5 years from now, we're always going to have an additional year.
Right. Thank you, Commissioner. First, let me just say that this is, from our perspective, this is not a duel or a battle with the Florida Attorney General. This is not us proving who's smarter than the other. We're just seeking to get this commission the correct answer and to the right answer. And so the question was initially posed, can the city change the date of its election? And the answer is yes. Then the second question, how would we do it? Well, obviously there's the provision for changing the charter via a referendum. You could do that. We all know how that's done. But unique to, I think, this situation is there's actually 3 Florida statutes that authorize the City Commission to change the date of election by ordinance and provide for the proper qualifications and adjusting people's tenures or terms. So the 3 statutes we're talking about are 166.021 Florida statutes that basically says, however, nothing in this act shall be construed to permit any changes in a special law or municipal charter which affect the terms of elected officers and the manner of their election, except for the selection of election dates and qualifying periods for candidates and for changes in terms of office necessitated by such changes in election dates. And I'll speak generally, and I'll have Division Chief Eric Eves comment on the specific matters, but it's important to note that when we talk about general law, so the next statute that's relevant is 166.021 parentheses 4, and then the next section is part of the election code, 100.3605 Florida statutes, which addresses the conduct of municipal elections. That provision says the governing body of a municipality may, comma, by ordinance, comma, change the dates for qualifying and for the election of members of the governing body of the municipality and provide for orderly transition of office resulting from such changes. So there's 3 statutes that authorize us to do this. And then there's over 25 years, I think, of Attorney General opinions that say it's appropriate to do it this way. After this item reached the agenda the day before, I think it was June 11th of this year, the day before the 12th meeting, which was supposed to happen, we got a letter from the Florida Attorney General who indicated that that those statutes are inapplicable to the City of Miami because the City of Miami is located in Miami-Dade County, and Miami-Dade County has a home rule charter, and that the rules are different for municipalities that exist under such circumstances. And the opinion, I think, did a pretty decent job of explaining how the home rule charter works and what the provisions of the home rule charter are. However, there was one sort of glaring omission in the Attorney General's opinion, which was Article 8, Section 6 of the Florida Constitution, which provides that Article 8, Section 11, parentheses 1G, Florida Constitution of 1885 says, however, Article 8, Section 11, parentheses 6 of the 1885 Constitution provides that general law supersedes the Miami-Dade County Charter, notwithstanding anything said previously. Goes on to say, nothing in this section shall be construed to limit or restrict the power of the legislature to enact laws. Goes further to say, all such general laws shall apply to Dade County and to all municipalities therein to the same extent as if this section had not been adopted, and such general laws shall supersede any part or portion of the Home Rule Charter provided for herein in conflict therewith. So it's pretty clear that that section of the charter applies to the City of Miami and to the movement of the election dates. And so we responded in those who wish to read it in detail. We provided a legal opinion 25-001 that sets out our provision. We also took note of the fact that we're not the first municipality in the state of Florida to change the elections via these statutes. We're not even the first municipality in Miami-Dade County to use these statutes to change the date of our election. One local municipality did it, I believe, in 2023, and there was no consternation, no pushback. One just recently did it, same thing, no consternation, no pushback. Our position is Florida law allows you to do it via this method. And so let me have Eric fill in any blanks that I left, if any, if you would.
Happy to do so. Good afternoon. I don't have much to fill in other than to just, briefly explain the Attorney General's position and what he does not dispute. Our interpretation of these statutes is not in dispute. The fact that these statutes would authorize us to take this action is clear under the plain language of the statutes. The Attorney General's opinion is that these statutes are trumped by the Miami-Dade County Charter via the 1885 Florida Constitution. And so, as we all know, the Constitution trumps statutes, and generally statutes trump local law. The problem with the Attorney General's opinion, in our view, is that the 1885 Constitution makes it clear that the general laws of the state of Florida trump the Miami-Dade County Charter. There are different kinds of laws that the legislature passes. General laws, to put it simply, means they apply throughout the state. There are special or local laws that the legislature can pass, which are more targeted to specific areas or regions within the state. Our interpretation of the 1885 Constitution, which I should add the Florida Supreme Court agrees with, given several decisions we've cited, has made it clear that while special or local laws cannot trump the Miami-Dade County Charter, general laws, which are laws that apply throughout the state, apply to Miami-Dade County. They wouldn't be general laws if there was always if Miami-Dade County was always excluded. They wouldn't really meet the definition of general laws. General laws apply to everyone. That includes the county. So our position is simply these statutes, and our interpretation of these statutes has not been disputed by the Attorney General. He simply believes that they're trumped by other laws, and our position is that the Florida Constitution clearly says that the general laws of this state apply to Miami-Dade County like they do to everyone else.
And I would add to that a general law, 100.3605, which I read from before, says the governing body of a municipality may, by ordinance, change the dates for qualifying and for the election of members of the governing body of the municipality and provide for the orderly transition of office resulting from such date changes. Another general law, 101.75, says, parentheses 3, notwithstanding any provision of local law or municipal charter, the governing body of a municipality may, by ordinance, move the date of any municipal election to a date concurrent with any statewide or countywide election. So we're not using this ordinance to sort of pick another date. The only way we can use 101.75 in conjunction with 100.3605 is to move your elections to the general cycle, which is when the state and federal elections periods are. And then another general law, which applies to every municipality in the state of Florida, is 166.021, which I read earlier basically has a provision that says you can't change anything except for the selection of election dates and qualifying periods for candidates and for changes in terms of office necessitated by such changes in election dates. Now, as I indicated, another municipality had done this in Miami-Dade County, and some folks said they didn't think it was an appropriate thing to do, similar to what we've seen here. And those folks actually went to court, and they filed an action against that city. And the court in that case said, for example, sections 166.0214 and 100.36052 Florida statutes, governing statutes, expressly and unambiguously authorize the city to enact the challenged ordinances. Then they further said, contrary to plaintiff's argument, the court concludes that two statutes expressly and unambiguously authorize the city to pass the challenged ordinances, sections 166.0214 and 100.3605, parentheses 2 Florida statutes. A, the statutory text is clear and unambiguous, requiring no extrinsic evidence to construe the governing statutes. That court essentially found that that other municipality was correct in changing the dates of the election via those ordinances. That decision was appealed. It went to the 3rd District Court of Appeals, and the 3rd District Court of Appeals affirmed the decision However, unfortunately, they didn't issue an opinion. But even though there's no opinion, we believe that that's more persuasive than, say, an Attorney General opinion. So we believe we're in good standing with the Florida Constitution, Florida statutes, the case law, and 25 years of Attorney General opinions, except for one written on June 11th of this year. But that's why we believe it's legal and consistent with Florida law.
Thank you, Mr. City Attorney. Commissioner Pardo, do you have anything else?
I did actually. Could you address the additional year? Because that came up quite a bit.
Right.
And also, I mean, I think ideally it would be great to have it voted on, et cetera, but we know that we have support for this measure in this moment. And if we wait for another cycle, another election, other people to show up, we may never have this chance again.
Right.
It's been hard to get to where we are even in this moment. Right. So I think if you explain the additional year, that'll address everything that I heard in public comment.
Yeah, and so as I've been saying, no matter how you slice it, if you move the dates of the elections, somebody's going to get an extra year. You could conceivably, if you were a mathematician, which I am not, figure out a way to do it so that a commissioner would lose a term. But the reason we chose, or we think this method is more appropriate and better, is because you all were elected to a term of 4 years. For us, a gentleman stood up here earlier and said, I'd gladly give away my year, but he didn't win 4-year terms. He hasn't won anything yet. You each have won an election for a term. And so to try and take away a year from you would require you to lose a year for which the people have already given you that year. So like by moving the election, it affects, there's 3 positions, the mayor, District 5, and District 3 that are up this term. And then you have the other 3 spots, which would be up in 2027, generally. And so it's difficult to make these moves. And like I was saying, if you do move the date of the election to the even year cycle, since we are on an odd year cycle with 4-year terms, somebody's going to get that extra year. Whether you do it now, you do it next year, you do it 2 years from now. So that's essentially, it's just sort of the way it is right now. And this is, it doesn't necessarily benefit anybody other. There's a notion that it benefits the people sitting in office now, but if you were to do it next year, you would benefit those sitting in office then. And so it's probably a terrible explanation, but in order to do this, every action has consequences. And so by moving the election, it extends the term, and and that would be the same, as I said, for any other movement of the term.
Thank you. Commissioner Cabela?
No, I'm going to, look, I've already made my position, I think, clear in the past, but that's my position. I respect all of you. I know there's good intentions here, why to do it. I'm just not comfortable with the fact that the voter...
They can't hear you, Commissioner.
Sorry. So, yeah, you guys know my position. I've made my position clear, and I'm not going to reiterate, but briefly, I just feel that the voter, and I understand that there's good intentions here, but I just can't, I can't do it. And I respect what you guys, my colleagues are doing, so I'll leave it at that. You guys know full well where my position's at, and I'll just leave it at that. I think the voter should participate, and that's what I think.
Commissioner Rosado?
I began canvassing last year because I did not necessarily know that there would be a special election, but I had an expectation that the person that I was ultimately running to replace would likely be a mayoral candidate. So when I began walking in December last year, this was already a hot topic because Coral Gables was discussing it. And folks asked me a number of times, and a number of folks approached me to support, ultimately, whether it was now or at some point in the future, some sort of a move to even year elections for all the reasons that have been discussed. It's pro turnout. It gets more folks out there. It gets people excited and interested in the democratic process. And it also saves taxpayer dollars. I mean, we've got another item on this agenda RE6, which the vice chair has sponsored and I've co-sponsored, that looks at ways to provide tax relief for senior citizens, right? So on the campaign trail over the span of 6 months, a number of folks said, are you in favor of being more democratic in terms of resident turnout? And also, not necessarily those same people, many people said, is there a way to provide tax relief? And I especially heard that from seniors. So I think it would be inconsistent for me to say we've got to look for ways to save money, but here's one way that I don't think we should actually save money. I've been in favor of this for a number of months. I've been on the record on this, and I'll be supporting this again.
Thank you. Vice Chair?
Thank you, Chairwoman. I heard Commissioner Pardo say that we weren't changing the election. Well, I'm sorry, but I didn't drink the Kool-Aid. How can you say we're not changing an election when we are not having an election this November? It's going to be held in November of 26, the primaries. And then you claim that, oh, we're not going to have run-ups. You know well that with all the people that are running for mayor, for all the people that are running for District 3, there are going to be run-ups in those two races, and we don't know if there will be a run-up in District 5 or not. I hope not, but we don't know. But we certainly know that right now there will be run-ups in 2 out of the 3. And those will be the times that people are going to really elect whom is going to represent them in the runoff. A runoff in December 8th, that if your position is that you're doing this to have more representation, we're going to have the lowest amount of turnout that we've ever had in our history to elect a mayor and at least one commissioner. I also heard you say that you got to do this now because you know you got support for it now, but you don't know if you'll have it in the future. Well, if this is such a slam bang that everybody wants it, why are you afraid to wait into the future? And if Miami is just running to City Hall because they want this, people will go and get a petition and sign up and make sure that they get this. You won't even have to have the commission do it. But the truth of the matter is that you're not doing this for the reasons that you claim, because it's clear that in December the 8th, when we're going to be deciding the majority, if not all, of our elected officials in runoffs, it's going to be a much lower turnout than in any other time that we have had elections. You're doing this, Commissioner Pardo, because you don't want certain people that you feel would win if they run or are running now to be able to win. You stated that. You certainly have. Now, the Attorney General expressed his opinions that I am in agreement with. The City Attorney has expressed his that I respect and respectfully disagree with. We've discussed this for I don't know how long at the last commission meeting. It is not my intention to keep talking and talking on this. I'd like to finish this meeting today as quickly as possible, because I think most of what we have, we either discussed it at the last meeting or discussed it in the morning session, so we could go quite quickly. We all know that if this passes today, it will end up in the courts, and I will predict all the way to the Supreme Court of the state of Florida, and so be it. Let's vote. Let's not waste more time in today's meeting, and I've said what I needed to say. Thank you.
Thank you. May I have a motion for SR1?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
No.
The motion passes 3-2 with Commissioner Carollo and Commissioner Cabello voting no.
Fire.
Okay.
Okay, next.
The first reading items.
Yes, Madam Chair. FR1, first reading. Is there going to be a deferral?
Didn't we
Yeah.
vote on this already?
On FR, on FR,
FR1?
no, we haven't voted on it yet. FR1, I think there was a request for a deferral after the fact, Madam Chair.
May I have a motion to
yeah.
defer FR1?
Second.
Motion,
I have a
second.
motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
To the July 10th meeting?
Yeah.
To the July 10th meeting.
All right. FR2, first reading ordinance, an ordinance of the Miami City Commission repealing Chapter 38, Article 3 of the Code of the City of Miami, Florida, as amended, City Code titled Parks and Recreation, Bayfront Park Management Trust, in its entirety to abolish the Bayfront Park Management Trust, further amending Chapter 2, Article 11, Division 2, titled Administration Boards, Committees, Commission Standards for Creation and Review of Boards Generally, to remove references to the trust, further amending Chapter 18, Article 3, Section 18-72, titled Finance, City of Miami Procurement Ordinance, Application and Exclusions, to remove references to the trust, further amending Chapter 54, Article 1, Section 54-9, titled Streets and Sidewalks, in general, placing signs, advertisement, or displays on any portion of public right-of-way, street, or sidewalk surface, to remove references to the trust, further directing the city manager to take any and all actions necessary to effectuate the city's operation of the Bayfront Park and Maurice Ferre Park in accordance with this ordinance, containing a severability clause and providing for an immediate effective date. FR3, an ordinance of the Miami City Commission amending Chapter 2, Article 2 of the Code of the City of Miami, Florida, as amended, titled Administration, Mayor, and City Commission, to prohibit outside employment of the mayor, containing a severability clause and providing for an effective date. That is the end of the FR.
Thank you. Gentlemen, would you like to pull any of the FR items for discussion?
Well, I think okay, you're saying for discussion.
Right.
I don't need to discuss anything more. FR3, let me just state on the record clearly, because it was not read in the headliner by the city attorney. This would only apply to the position of mayor effective November 10th, 2025 of this year. And the reason I made it effective November 10th is because the 4 years that was approved by the voters for the position of mayor ends on approximately November 10th of this year. The extra year is one that we are given to the mayor, like to the rest of the commission, and I just feel that if this is a year that was not approved by the voters, we should demand that our office of mayor would be a full-time position where there's no outside employment. And this would include a sizable raise to the mayor that would be equal to that of a member of Congress, that each represent an area approximately the size of the city, actually a little bigger than the city of Miami in population. However, if that's not suffice, I will be willing to open it up for additional compensation for the office of mayor.
Does anybody else have any comments for
Can we
FR?
separate and do FR2?
Yeah, we can separate.
Yeah, because I got a couple of questions on FR2.
These are two, both
Right.
separated.
Two
Oh,
separate.
okay.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. This is something that originally was within charter review because it's incredibly complicated.
FR2?
No.
We're on FR2.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. FR3.
No.
I thought you were still.
FR2. Anybody have any comments on FR2?
So it's going to be discussed?
Yes.
I do have remarks, and if the clerk could distribute some items that I provided to him. I have some things for each of my colleagues. So this is, what he's distributing is essentially historical research on the Bayfront Trust, going back essentially to its inception. And I want to preface my remarks by saying what one of the public speakers very eloquently explained, which is I'm here to discuss, not to discuss people, but to discuss ideas. And that's very important to the discussion I think we're going to have. I want to make sure that we decouple the discussion around what I'm proposing with any particular individuals. But as you'll see by looking at some of the documents, and this is just a drop in the bucket in terms of articles that have been written about the Bayfront Park Trust over time, you're going to see that this is, for a variety of reasons, the most politically volatile entity that is affiliated with the city historically. It just is. It's been around almost since I was a child, and that's been an issue that's been going on since then. There was a phrase I used at last week's commission meeting when I first proposed this idea, and it was interesting to see that in one of the articles that's there from 1987, you had former City Commissioner Rosario Kennedy using the exact same phrase, which is that this entity in particular is a political football. So all these years later, almost 40 years later, and I would still consider it very much a political football. So apparently that's just not changed over time. This is an agency that's often used to divide us when we need to be united and working together for the benefit of the residents of the city. There's even an article that I distributed, and it's one of many, many that I could distribute, where a previous executive director got into some major trouble, which obviously was problematic not just for him, but for the image of the city as a whole. We know that Bayfront Trust has gone through a variety of executive directors, dozens upon dozens of executive directors during its history, and I think there's a reason for that. Again, this is not specific to any one elected official. It's the history of the agency, and it is, I think, related very closely to the way that it's structured. It's historically been unstable. Today we even had somebody lobbying the city commission to support a certain course of action regarding this city-affiliated entity. I've also distributed an ordinance from some years back that was showing how the Miami Sports and Exhibition Authority was dissolved. So it's an entity that existed for many years. The commission had determined that it had run its course. It had determined that a number of city staff members were already involved in its operations in the same way that we see this being the case with this particular entity at this moment in time. And so they dissolved the entity and they transferred the duties to the city commission and its staff when it was clear that the agency was no longer necessary to function in the way that it had functioned. In addition, there is an article from 2013 that we distributed written by the National Recreation and Parks Association. Now, that is the industry association for parks and rec professionals in the United States. So this is not a political organization. It is the trade group that oversees parks and recreation professionals and accreditation and standards and all of that. And the article is about alternative structures for overseeing very large, complex urban parks that generate a lot of revenue, right? And it talks about the conservancy model, which is a slightly different model, where you have a nonprofit and it's a board of directors, et cetera. That's the way that you see Central Park being operated and a number of major parks in large urban centers throughout the country. Who is the featured park that leads the article? Like, what is the actual introduction of the article? It is Bayfront Trust. This is an article from 2013. So this has a complex, nationally recognized history of being a problematic amenity to oversee. This is the introduction to this article about how to run parks, and it is talking about, in 2013, quoting folks that are sometimes in the audience and have been around for a long time, saying what a challenge this has been. And so it recommends an alternative structure that is not the structure that we have in place. For all of these reasons, I am proposing that we dissolve this entity and we put it under the auspices of the city manager and task him with coming back with a defined structure that actually does work better, that is much more stable, whether it is as a division, not within Parks and Recreation specifically, but a division of the city or a conservancy. But I think this has over the span of the last 40 years, generated more than its fair share of controversy, and it's run its course. It is not being run optimally. And again, I'm not talking about specific people, and I don't want to associate this with any elected officials in particular. This is the history of this entity. And I think this is the best course of action to address something that has been kicked down the road, not for months or years, but decades.
Commissioner Pardo?
I think that when we talk about not just Bayfront Park Trust, but we talk about all of the entities, whether it's Omni CRA, whether it's DDA, whether it's, I mean, we can look at, they've all been and still are political footballs. I think that's a problem because we're not serving our residents. Where there's a strategy, happening about, like you said, it's personal. It's not about the specific action. I think, especially in this case, where we're looking at the Olympia and talking about the Olympia transaction, acknowledging that the city is not really good at managing assets and handling businesses that are more complex than maybe just standard municipal transactions. I think that's the case with Bayfront Park Trust. It's complex. It is outside of the scope of a municipality. I think if we want to look at something like a conservancy, I'm all in favor of looking at alternative structures along with residents. I think this is a joint decision. I don't think it should be us who makes this determination in these cases. And I think if jointly with residents we determine there's a better route where we can do the master plan, we can segregate those funds and be able to move forward with that, that's great. In the meantime, though, I have to say, stability has been provided to the trust. The residents who weren't happy are happy. There is work on the master plan. They're thrilled about that. They feel heard. They feel acted upon. I would not like to see that stability jeopardized, and I think we can do both. I think we can provide the stability while still go ahead and plan for the future with the residents and look at different options.
Commissioner Cabela?
Yeah, I agree. You're just moving it from one entity to the other is what you're doing. And if that were the case that all entities are bad and have problems, which they do, not all are bad, but they have a problems. Right now, I'm in the middle of creating the Alapata CRA that I worked for since I got here in January, and you, Commissioner Pardo, and you, Chairwoman King, helped me on. And, if this was the case and we lose faith in all of our, institutions, and then, I mean, yes, it's difficult. However, I have to respond, Commissioner Rosado. During my tenure, there's been no problems thus far. Only I've been at it 3 or 4 months. The last 7 or 8 years have been the problem. Without having a plan of action, and like I said, I'm open in December to having a discussion, and because by then we should have a more clear picture what can be done with this. And if the will of my colleagues is to dissolve the park into something else, I have no problem with that. But to do it now in the middle of, that we're trying to right the ship, we're putting accounting standards and things that should have been put into place, mechanisms. So the kind of things that you're talking about, keep them to a minimum. We're doing it right now. We've installed actually positive things for the park, guardrails, if you will. So this, doesn't happen. So, this on the fly. And, look, you're not the first one that tried to dissolve the park. Commissioner Carollo tried to do this 4 months ago, and it failed. I know where this is coming from, but I'm not going to get into the antics or, of the negative stuff. At the end of the day, right now, there is no plan. Right now, what you're saying is let's take it away from this entity, the entity, and let's put it in the hands of the city manager when there is no plan in place, because this is done on the fly. But I understand your concern. That's why I say, let me finish my job, okay, what I'm trying to do. In December, we can revisit it, okay? And then if we decide then and there to do it, go ahead, by all means, but then we would have a plan. What exactly, let's identify the problems in the structure, okay? And then let's come up with a solution, but not like this. It seems to me that, some here have a, under the guise that we're going to, and what you're doing is in the middle of trying to right the ship, if you will, you're throwing another monkey wrench at it. You know what I mean? Where, so all the work that I've done for 4 months trying to right this thing will be I don't know, gone into nowhere. And like I said, in, you know, the Alapata CRA, which I am now waiting for the county to move on because we've done all our work here that we could do. It's been presented. If I were to feel like that, you know, about every institution, then we'd have no institutions really, because everybody's got problems. So that's my 2 cents. But at the end of the day, I leave to my colleagues what should be done, and I will go along with it peacefully.
For me, I don't think that any of the chairs of the trust did a bad job. And I think I've said that. I don't think Commissioner Carollo has done a bad job, and I don't think Commissioner Gabella is doing a bad job. But what's happening between us and this park is distracting, and it takes away from the work that we do. The exercise equipment in the park took 18 months plus. That exercise equipment is used every day, and I believe that it was an issue because of the person that was chairing it. And I believe now there's another issue because the person that is the chair of it. I would support this only to find some resolutions, because neither of my colleagues have done a bad job and are doing a bad job. It is personality based. That's how I feel. So I would support this on first reading only to find some amicable resolution so that we are not screaming at it or screaming over my head, scaring my mother to death because she believes that in one second somebody's going to hit me. And that's the only reason. The Bayfront Park is a beautiful space. It is a beautiful space. And from where it has come from, like there was a lot of criticism about the dog and cat park. It's beautiful. And people have said it's beautiful. But it got a bad rap because of the person that initiated it. The plantings, the flowers, and what Commissioner Gabella is trying to do is also right. And to make the record straight, Commissioner Reyes asked for a forensic audit of every entity in the city, all of the CRAs, the trust, and everything. And after that, he would make his decision. Staff advised that a forensic audit during the time that it was requested would almost be impossible to do because of the work, and an audit was already going on. I'm not doing that blame game. I just want us to move beyond this moment in the city. However that is, that will be best for the residents of this city as well as this commission. So I'm going to entertain this on first reading, but somebody has to convince me otherwise second reading.
Tell you what, one step further, because I'm a risk taker all my life. I resign. You guys go ahead and handle it. That's the way you want it. I'm not going to play these games. I've been trying to do a good job, with all due respect, Madam Chairwoman. You know, even the dog park, I haven't even talked once about taking off the dog park. The gym equipment, if you remember, when I was not the chairman, I tried to help them out to install the gym equipment because 80% of the voters came through, and I said that, and I stated that here. Okay, that's what I did. But this fantasy that somehow this is being done for the correctness of you know, because there's a lot of things going on. First of all, I've been there for 4 months. Second of all, okay, the whole thing, it's been going on for 7, 8 years. To say, and you're right, the personalities are involved. However, nobody can accuse me, okay, of diverting fund, of this or that, because I've only been there for 4 months. But if that's the case, you want to let me save you some trouble and some time, because I am not Mr. Carollo. If you guys don't want me there, I will not be there. Furthermore, I will have more time to dedicate to my district, which I have. Okay, and by the way, the answer to you, with the, I am always talking to Officer Rodriguez, to you, sir, in our thing, and I have moved a lot since I've been here a year and a half with the police department, so I try to do my job, you know what I mean? And they're always giving me the stats, the police department, that everything's good. You've heard them, that the crime is down. So I don't know where, but I believe you. But if that's being done, I'm going to go ahead and speak to the chief of police to see what furthermore. But I don't want anybody to get the impression that I'm not on the job. But I say it again. If the problem is this, okay, I tender my resignation right now, and that's it. We're done. No problem. Thank you.
Do I have a motion for FR2?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No. Nay.
And motion.
Motion passes. And Chair, is this coming back to the July 10th meeting?
Yes.
Thank you.
Chair, could I add something respectfully? I want to make sure that Commissioner Gabella understands. I have a challenge with this particular structure for this entity, and it is independent of my feelings for anybody sitting to my left. I just want to make that very,
No,
very,
I'm not
very
taking
clear.
it personally, but I'm resigning. I'm telling you, I don't need this. I don't need to take this little dog and pony show that we're playing here. I don't need to do it. When he wanted whoever he wanted on that thing, I voted for him because, like I said, I'm not into petty politics. That's what I don't play that. Okay, I've never have. I'm not going to continue to do it now, just because some other of us are. But I do take offense that I've been working at that for 4 months. Okay, the executive director, he's burning the midnight oil. Okay, last weekend, the weekend before, we planned the 4th of July. We have a 31st, New Year's Eve for this year, planning for that, and that's all on the air now because of what you guys are doing. But I'm not going to be part of the shenanigan. I think this is a shenanigan, really, because for 7, 8 years, Mr. Garoyo or nobody said, hey, let's dissolve this. This came to be after I got in because there's a personal problem with me here. Fine, I take it, I embrace it, and if you guys don't want me there, I won't be there. But what I do take personal is that he was there for 7, 8 years. He said to us in 2024, last year, I'm stepping down in January. And we all took his word. I remember that? Yeah. And I took his word. And when January came, he didn't want to step down. He wanted to confuse and bait and play a little game. And this is the game that we're playing. So he won. Congratulations, sir.
That
you
wasn't
won.
true.
Not a problem. No,
Can
not a
I
problem.
answer this, please? That's totally untrue.
That's the truth.
What I stated in December was that I would happily step down in January so that I could help a new incoming chairman moving the trust forward. They didn't want help. They wanted to spend hundreds of thousands of more dollars in doing things their way because they didn't know what they were doing. For instance, something that I'm not even going to blame him because I've seen that many of the things that were going on, he didn't even know about it. He found out after the fact. Like
what are you talking about?
Well, like the meeting that I went to that you wanted, and the main reason you had a special meeting was that you wanted to bring an auditing firm that was going to end up costing, based on the amounts of dollars, up to $700+ an hour for 8.5 years auditing. It was probably going to cost $1 million+ or over $2 million. And he wanted a vote. And all of a sudden, his interim executive director tells him, oh, that item has been withdrawn. He turns around and says, what do you mean? He didn't even know. So they had to whisper into his ear, why? And you know why it was withdrawn? Did anyone say? They needed to have put a bid out for that, which they did. The same way as the Petmobile, that the last resolution from the trust was to have it activated, and the last executive director ignored that it didn't activate it. It was sent, and here are the emails by his interim executive director to GSA in the city without any resolution whatsoever from the trust. And you got a member here, Mr. Martel. If I'm lying, let him speak up. The mics are here for him. This Petmobile that could be out there helping many, many families in our city and their pets was sent to GSA to be sold. Except the board never approved it. And then when the manager told him that where's the board approval? You can't sell it without board approval. Then he sent another email to cancel it, using another excuse why he was doing it, asking if it hasn't been sold yet, then let's stop to sell it. For instance, the dogs and cats that were mentioned, 57 statues. Well, those statues, along with two very valuable pieces of art pieces, the Jimenez de Reyes art piece in front of the slip next to the arena, that could be worth maybe as much as $1 million plus $2 million, along with the Valdez one that we have on loan to the entrance of the museum. The contract that were part of the donation that we had to keep the upkeep, the contract for the upkeep was canceled. It was a very inexpensive contract that we have to do certain things to it every several months. The upkeep to the statues that were all painted by local artists, 57 statues of dogs and cats that have to be waxed so that the paint would be protected from the sun and the elements and they could last for years and years. It was canceled. Why? Because the interim director wants them to fall apart as quickly as he could see them. The fountain, my God, that we weren't on top of it to make sure that it would not be damaged when we had a major event there, to make sure that their staging was not going to be placed right on top of it, like what happened. It's unconscionable. But that's exactly what happened, and we had over $30,000 in damages. And I asked, did that invoice ever get sent so whoever did the damage would pay for it? And if it was sent, was it paid?
Can I respond to the allegations that you're making? First of all, the fountain was rushed, okay? Was rushed to the point that you guys did a roofing thing without a permit, okay? And the guy wanted to get paid, and the city didn't want to pay him. They owed him $400,000 because it was rushed.
Sir,
because,
that's so.
let me respond. Let me respond with what the gentleman said. And then the fountain, the water needed to take out again because it was rushed, because there was something peeling off. That's exactly why, because of what you're doing here, is exactly why I had to give the report, okay, of that special meeting I had and what we had found, because this is what you do. What happened in your tenure, now you're trying to make it my responsibility. When I've been there for 4 months, you were there for 7 or 8 years, Carollo. You know, I've been there for 4 months, my friend. You can't pin everything on me. And this is exactly why with people like you, we have to put it on the record, because I wasn't going to be saddled, okay, with the stuff that's been going on there for 7 or 8 years. I'm not the guy that the city came with a regular audit and said, you got to implement these things, these guardrails in place so the accounting is done correctly and everything else. You didn't do that. That's not me. We're trying to write, you know, the stuff that you didn't do. We've been making implements that you didn't do. The dockage, it's in bad condition. You never had an engineer report done. You know, the leaks in the bunker that are happening now. In the 7 or 8 years that you've been there, you never took care of it. We're the ones that are trying to take care of it. I mean, this is the truth, folks. I've been there for 4 months. You know, and we've done a lot. Let me tell you, in 4 months, I think, and I've had no controversy other than you. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, if this is the will of this body, so be it. Okay, I accept it.
I'm
Not a
sorry,
problem.
this is a lot of hogwash that he keeps lying.
No, you're a hog. You see how he starts? I didn't start with hogwash.
We've already discussed and passed
The
this
I think
item.
we're done.
Wait,
We should take a vote.
We've
We should take a
we've
vote.
already
You voted
passed-
on it. That's it.
We've already
Voted on
passed-
it.
We're on FR3.
quit lying.
We're,
No, you quit lying.
Commissioner-
You're lying, sir.
Stop.
You quit lying.
FR3. FR3.
FR3. We're on to FR3, right?
Do I have a motion?
It's the police chief here, please.
A motion for discussion, Madam Chair?
FR3,
I
I'm
don't
sorry.
need a motion for
This
discussion.
is a
If you
different
just
one.
want to discuss FR3, do I have a motion?
Motion made.
To pass? I mean, just a motion. A motion.
Discuss.
No, if you want to discuss it, let's just, we don't need a motion to discuss. The
Okay.
clerk just said.
Okay.
Would you guys like to discuss FR3?
Yeah, I mean, I think we need to.
Okay, it's Vice Chair's item. Let's put a timer on
Look,
this.
it's,
5 minutes.
I don't have a lot to say in this, except that beginning November of this year, going forward, it's a year that the people did not vote for. Therefore, I think we have a responsibility to make sure that this mayor, for that matter, any other mayor that would be sitting there, would be a full-time mayor, and that there are no outside employment for the office of mayor. I included raising the mayor's salary to the level of a congressional member of Congress that have an area of population slightly over the city of Miami. But if that's not suffice, I'll be willing to, consider a higher salary even than a congressional member. Simple as that. I believe that whoever the mayor is should not only be a full-time job, but that should be their sole employment, no outside employments. The possibilities are too great for too many conflicts and too many additional problems to the city.
Madam Chair, can I weigh in on this?
Yes,
one?
please.
Well, here we go again. He's doing this in retaliation because he's upset at the 2 years thing, that, the passing of the 1 year extra. Because my question, here we go again. Carollo, why didn't you do this 7 or 8 years ago when you were here? If you knew this was bad, how come you waited till now is my question. All this stuff, you see, folks, there's a pattern here. Okay, there's a pattern here. He's not doing it because, no. He's doing it because now he wants to punish the mayor. Okay, you know what I mean? And maybe this is good, by the way. Maybe it's a good thing. I don't know if it is or not. I'd have to study it. I'm not ready to vote on this yet. But my point is, you're not doing it because, this and that. You're doing it because you want to get back at the mayor because you're upset, okay, that the 2 year thing, happened, and this is what, and folks, this is how we continue. This is how we continue here in this little dog and pony show that we got to, you know what I mean? This is what goes on here. This is the truth of the matter.
Commissioner Pardo?
Madam Chair, this is one of the items that was actually being looked at through charter review, but it's very, very complicated because it's not a question of just outside employment or having full-time employment. I believe all of us have outside employment, or most of us have outside employment. Some staff has outside employment that you get special approval for. So its impact is very broad-ranging. We need to look at other cities of similar size. This isn't something that someone should just decide and put on an agenda and it all of a sudden pops up. It needs to be studied, and I think it should be done under charter review. So I'm against it.
Commissioner Rosado?
I can support that position as being appropriate, that we do it as part of larger charter reform efforts.
Well, the problem that I have is we talk about charter review. Then what happened to the charter review and everything else that we just voted upon here? That was not part of the charter review? I don't know. I mean, what's convenient is part of the charter review. What's not is not part of the charter review. And by the way, I've taken this position for a long time on this. I had in the past that the city attorneys could confirm this, looked at bringing it up, but I was told that I could not bring it up at any time because it was not part of what voters voted upon for the position of mayor, that was not included. Otherwise, it would have been brought up. But I will tell you what is truly getting back. This individual was chasing all over me for 1.5 years to get him to endorse him, help him in his campaign. I'm talking about Mr. Gavella. When I ran in 2017, I had forgotten until somebody pointed it out to me. There were 2 $500 contributions to my campaign from one Miguel Gavella. Then he spent 1.5 years chasing after me
Steve Widow asked me
to get
to
his
contribute
support.
to your campaign.
And I
that's
did
why
not
I gave it to
support
you.
him because
Okay.
I saw that this is what was going to come to the city
Oh,
commission.
yeah. You did, that's
I
why you were. Is that
supported
why
his
you were in my
opponent.
house?
Okay.
Is that why you were in my house in
Where-
2019? You went to my house in
Yeah, I
2019.
was
I got
there
video.
because you invited me, sir.
That
And you
doesn't have
came.
anything
And
to
you-
do
and
with
you came,
FR3.
sir.
You
And you
visiting
came.
his house and you giving him campaign
I didn't invite you to mine, did I?
That doesn't have anything to do
I don't know what
with
you do, man,
what
'cause
we
you
are
lie so much that who the hell knows what you do.
FR3. FR3.
Let's
FR3.
Let's move on to the first
But
thing.
Chairman, why do I always get stopped because this guy wants to act like a thug and interrupt and interrupt and interrupt.
Keep talking, man. Go ahead. Keep talking. I'm here. I'm
But
done.
we're
I'm done.
not, because,
keep talking.
because we're not talking about FR3, we have saddled off into other stuff. If we could keep, I will not interrupt anyone if we can stay on topic with what is before us.
Well, on topic is that we discussed this. I'll make a motion that I know I will not get a second, but I want to have it in the record, that at least someone tried to do what was right in this. And I respect everybody else's opinion, but there's a motion for FR3.
Madam Chair, I did want to add something, just on charter review so people would understand. We had this at the beginning when we came in about a year and a half ago. We started a lot of work on charter review, and the mayor had included that in his State of the City address. And so we went back and looked at previous charter reviews, and we found that the last time we did this was about 10 years ago. There were about 17 recommendations. We adopted, or we sent 3 or 4 to the voters, the rest weren't. But when we analyzed the ones that charter review didn't allow to go to the voters that didn't make it, they were really important. Like, we wouldn't be in this position had we adopted that stuff way, way long time ago. So what we were trying to do is create a mechanism that had teeth, where, okay, if this committee gets together and they pick 10 items, all of them go to the voters. It's like, well, there's not support for a mechanism like that to make that happen. Then we were working on, well, maybe with a 4/5, we can navigate it so that the commission can still set aside a few, and then other bigger ones go to the voters. I'm just giving this in the way of background because I'm not sure if you remember, but we even sent through procurement to see how other cities do charter review. And we came back, we found that Broward actually had one that went directly to voters. We analyzed some other cities. So the reason we're doing these reforms on a one-off is because this is what we can do, and we think we can do in this moment, and they're important enough to try to start changing our structure. So I just wanted to give that explanation.
My concern with this, and is why I'm not voting for it, is because for something like that, I believe we would need a strong mayor. And the voters voted down a strong mayor form of government some years ago. So if we can move forward, if there's no more discussion for this.
Well, I will tell you what will be coming next, Madam Chairman. If not later on this year, you'll see it beginning of next year. This overwhelming petition drive that has under 2% of signatures of voters, if they're all even valid, which I doubt it very much. And they've been going at it for close to 3 months and have under 2% of the signatures of our voters. Someone's going to come up that this is what we need, and we have the votes now. And how many more districts do you want? 9, 13, 21, 27? But as long as you'd include a strong mayor in it, and then it's going to come to a referendum sometime next year, if this that you all passed today stands the test of the courts. And this is what this is really all about. And, you know, I respect each person's position. I'm aware of the realities. I'm also thanking God for giving me the patience to take one step at a time for now. But I'm not blind as to what's happening here. This whole charter amendment stuff is all a ruse. I'm tired of seeing people laughing at our residents, thinking that they could use them like a rag and that they're fools and they could do whatever they want, that they're cute. One thing that I know is that when I was mayor of the city, I didn't have any outside employment. I lived in what I made. I don't have any outside employment today. And I chose that. I didn't have to do it. Believe you me, I was smart enough that if I wanted to have outside employment as mayor, I would have made plenty of money. I did back when I was in my early 30s and was out of office after 2 terms as commissioner. And I made a lot of money the first year and a half, 2 years that I was out of office. But I chose to serve this city, and I strongly believe in what I've stated. We need to pay a mayor a sufficient salary so that there's no question that they could live on the salary of a mayor, but assure that there's no outside employment, that they're going to be working full-time strictly for us. I'm willing to do that. If we pay Mr. Noriega, if we pay others, $300,000+ a year benefits. If we got employees in the city of Miami that we're paying private firms for their service, 5.5, actually, I think it's $571,000 a year. You know, maybe we don't want to overdo it and pay that to a mayor, but we could certainly pay a mayor fair amount of dollars to be our full-time mayor. And I'm looking way into the future. I'm not looking, for the end of the year, next year. This is something that has to be looked at for the long term, not just the very short term. Anyway, can we move on?
Maybe we should look at curtailing the outside counsel that we're spending for you in the tune of excess of $10 million and the lawsuits that you have going on that you're probably going to cost the city.
Well, sir, it's
Where
your
everything
friends that have been
well,
suing.
did I interrupt you?
Here we
So
go.
your
Here we
friends
go.
that have been
Here we
suing.
go.
But you see,
The people that give you
There's a
orders
motion.
for what to do and
There's
say.
a motion.
I didn't
Do I
interrupt
have
him.
a second? There's a motion for
Didn't interrupt him.
FR3. Do I have a second? Seeing no second,
Motion dies for lack of second.
motion dies for a lack of
Madam
second.
Chair, I'd like to make a motion to deny FR3.
Second.
It died.
Oh, it
It
just
died.
It died.
Oh, okay.
It died. Let's go to the PZ items. Mr. City Attorney, would you please read the titles for the PZ items into the record? PZ 1 and 2 have been indefinitely deferred.
Yes, Madam Chair. PZ3 is a first reading ordinance, an ordinance of the Miami City Commission with attachments amending ordinance number 10544 as amended the future land use map of the Miami Comprehensive Neighborhood Plan pursuant to small-scale amendment procedures subject to section 163.3187 Florida statutes by changing the future land use designation from restricted commercial to general commercial of the acreage described herein of real property at 1930, 2000, and 2060 Northeast 2 Avenue, 64, 97, 106, 120, 146, and 160 Northeast 20th Street and 135 Northeast 19 Terrace, Miami, Florida, as more particularly described in the attached and incorporated Exhibit A, making findings, containing a severability clause, and providing for an effective date. PZ4, first reading ordinance, an ordinance of the Miami City Commission with attachments pursuant to Articles 3 and 7 of Ordinance Number 13114, the zoning ordinance of the City of Miami, Florida, as amended Miami 21 Code, amending the Miami 21 Code to add Appendix Q titled Brayman Miami Campus Special Area Plan, Brayman SAP, amending the zoning atlas of the Miami 21 Code to rezone approximately 12.9 acres of property currently zoned T636A0, T636B0, T612O, and T680 to include a Brayman SAP zoning overlay district for the properties located at approximately 2020 and 260 Biscayne Boulevard, 2001, 2010, and 2060 Northeast 2nd Avenue, 94, 106, 114, and 246 Northeast 20th Avenue, and 111, 120, and 137 Northeast 20th Street, as more particularly described in the attached and incorporated Exhibit A, and amending the Miami 21 Code to incorporate the Brayman SAP regulating plan attached and incorporated as Exhibit B, and the Bremen SAP concept book attached and incorporated as Exhibit C into Appendix Q, which proposes new development and adds an auto-related commercial establishment to the Bremen SAP, making findings, containing a severability clause, and providing for an effective date. PZ5 is a first reading ordinance. An ordinance of the Miami City Commission with attachments approving a development agreement pursuant to Chapter 163 Florida statutes and authorizing the city manager to negotiate and execute said development agreement in a form acceptable to the city attorney, a draft of which is attached and incorporated as Exhibit B between 120 Northeast 20th Street, LLC, a Delaware limited liability company, 120 Street, 2020 Biscayne Boulevard, LLC, a Delaware limited liability company, 2020 Biscayne, 2060 Biscayne Boulevard, LLC, a Delaware limited liability company, 2060 Biscayne, 2060 Northeast 2nd Avenue, LLC, a Delaware limited liability company, 2060 Northeast, 246 Northeast 20th Terrace, LLC, a Delaware limited liability company, 246 NE, Raymond Hyundai, Inc., a Florida corporation, Raymond Leibowitz Gas Station, LLC, a Delaware limited liability company, Raymond Leibowitz Service and Parts, LLC, a Delaware limited liability company, Raymond Leibowitz Temple Lots, LLC, a Delaware limited liability company, Raymond Leibowitz Miami Downtown Properties 1, LLC, a Delaware limited liability company, Raymond Leibowitz Miami Downtown Properties 2, LLC, a Delaware limited liability company, Raymond Leibowitz Parking Garage, LLC, a Delaware limited liability company, and NB Leasing, Inc., a Florida corporation, collectively applicant, and the City of Miami, Florida, governing the properties generally located at 2020 and 2060 Biscayne Boulevard, 2001, 2010, and 2060 Northeast 2nd Avenue, 94, 106, 114, and 246 Northeast 20th Terrace, and 111, 120, and 137 Northeast 20th Street, more particularly described in the attached and incorporated Exhibit A. Such development agreement would allow development as described in the following phases. Phase 1A includes an 11-story auto service building with 339 service bays, 620 parking spaces consisting of 1,176,000 square feet. Phase 1B, development of a WUNRF of 29,160 square feet along Northeast 20th Terrace between Northeast 2nd Avenue and Biscayne Boulevard. Phase 2A, 60-story mixed-use building of 1,300,000 square feet and 624 dwelling units. Phase 3, a 60-story mixed-use building of 825,000 square feet and 550 dwelling units. And Phase 4 is the renovation of a gas station of 4,000 square feet, making findings, containing a severability clause, and providing for an effective date. PZ6, an ordinance of the Miami City Commission amending ordinance number 13114, the zoning ordinance of the City of Miami, Florida, as amended by amending Article 3, titled General to Zone, specifically by adding sections 3.19, titled Transit Station Neighborhood Development, to establish criteria for transit-oriented development with design flexibility and public benefits, making findings, containing a severability clause, and providing for an effective date. And that one will be amended with the PZAB information. PZ7, first reading ordinance, an ordinance of the Miami City Commission amending ordinance number 13114, the zoning ordinance of the City of Miami, Florida, as amended by amending Article 4, Table 4, titled Density, Intensity, and Parking, to modify food service establishment patron limitation. Further amending Article 5, Section 5.4, titled General Urban Transect Zones, T4, to introduce a flexible lot coverage program to adjust the maximum lot area, to update roof element standards, and to modify side and rear setbacks, making findings, containing a severability clause, and providing for an effective date. And finally, PZ8, first reading ordinance, an ordinance of the Miami City Commission amending ordinance number 13114, the zoning ordinance of the City of Miami, Florida, is amended, specifically by amending Article 3, Section 3.16 of the Miami 21 Code, titled Workforce Housing Special Benefit Program Supplemental Regulations, to introduce a new workforce housing program within the City of Miami, making findings, containing a severability clause, and providing for an effective date. That concludes the PZ items.
Gentlemen, of the PZ items, are there any items that you want to pull for discussion?
PC 6, I'd like to pull it. I need a lot more information, so I'd like to defer it.
And PZ8 as well.
PC 6.
You want to pull PZ6 as well? PZ8. Any others? Okay. May I have a motion to pass PZ3, 4, 5, and 7?
Motion.
Second.
Before we vote, I'd like to make a disclosure, and if anybody else has any, they should. I met with PC 3, 4, and 5 with Mr. Shack representing the business entity here and their attorney.
I did as well. Thank you.
Those would be Jennings disclosures.
Those are Jennings disclosures?
Yes.
Anyone else care to make a Jennings disclosure for PZ 3, 4, and 5?
I'll make one, but I met with Mr. Shack, but not about this.
Okay.
But just to err on the side of caution.
Okay.
I'll just say that. Okay, so
Sorry, what are we discussing now?
we're,
Commissioner Gabella, did you meet with anybody on PZ 3,
Yeah,
PZ
I met,
4?
yes, I met with them.
Okay, yeah,
So you
so
have a Jennings
we're just making a
About to
Jennings
stand it
disclosure.
upwards.
no, you have to disclose.
Okay.
They don't all-
Yes, they
you
came
don't-
into my office, they presented the project, and I'm okay with it.
Nobody presented the project to
All
me.
right, thank you, sir.
Me either.
Okay, so I have a motion for PZ 3, 4, 5, and 7. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. PZ 6 was pulled for,
I'd like to defer PC 6.
I would rather not. This is my district, and I would ask if you can have your questions, because it's first reading.
I thought it was citywide.
No. This is specific. There's a lot of misinformation that is going around about this particular project. It is the raising of a public housing development, and it is going to provide 2 to 1 affordable housing units. Because it's Section 8,
Right.
they have to give back 2 for 1. So for every 1 unit that is there, they have to give back 2 units.
Okay, well, this will be in first reading, but Chairman,
Yes.
Chairwoman, please make sure the staff puts down when it's affecting a district. Nowhere here does it say District 5.
So if I could, Madam Chair, if I could clarify.
Okay.
So, Commissioner Correa, you are correct. This is a citywide ordinance that sets the framework for TOD district program. The chairwoman was referring to the first program, which will be the Little River district, which we approved at the last commission meeting. That establishes the flume for that housing that she was just referring to. If other TODs are to be unlocked, they would have to go through that process, establish the flume amendment to establish the node, and so forth.
Can we limit it to the area involved in District 5 without having to open up Pandora's box into other areas?
So right now, it is limited. It's only that district that's been established with the flume amendment, and that actually has to be reviewed by the state, which is currently in their review now.
Then can we, when it comes back in second reading, clearly specify that it's only to this area? Because I think it's going to save us a lot of problems here.
So the other part of the conversation is that, this is creating a program that is competitive with some of the pressures that we're receiving with RTZ and with Live Local to incentivize development around our transit stations within our city. So this gives development the alternative within Miami 21 to work with.
Look, I'm not asking that. You're dancing around my question. Can you limit it to accomplish what Chairwoman King needs in her district to that area of where she's doing this and not open it up to other areas? Like I beginning to think that's what you want to accomplish with it.
So It is, today, it is limited to that area. No other area can take advantage of this program unless they were to come back to the commission with a flume amendment.
Okay, can you spell that out in plain English
Yes.
in the second reading ordinance, please?
Sure.
And also, there will be an amendment to exclude historic districts, because this area is not a historic district, correct?
That's correct.
And that is proposed for second reading, that the language is clear that it doesn't affect historic districts. Commissioner Pardo?
And it won't include NCDs, any of the NCDs, correct?
Correct. So what we will be, so there's a couple revisions that have been requested. One is to include PZAB's changes.
Can you share what those changes are?
Yes, I'll share what those changes are right now. To change the warrant process of T612 to an exception, so it has to go to PZAB for a review and approval. Properties located within a mile to a half mile shall not exceed T68. So right now it's proposed to be T612. That would come down to T68. And then the additional amendments are to exclude NCDs 1, 2, and 3, to require the exception approval by commission for any locally, nationally, and individually designated historic properties. So if they were to come in with a proposal, it would have to come before this commission for their approval. And then to incorporate the new workforce housing tiered AMI percentage requirements that we've discussed in PZ 8, to also include in this legislation as well.
And I have one clarification. Could you just, for the benefit of the public, I've heard a lot in our office and in public comment, just about the difference between the historic districts like MIMO and RTZ and Live Local, and how they do or do not apply in historic districts.
Yes. So, today in our code, in Chapter 23, we established the historic districts, the various districts. Palm Grove is a historic district. MIMO is a historic district. Spring Garden.
Oh, my
Overtown.
district.
Yeah, right, correct. We have many historic districts. Those districts are protected in our ordinances today, right? So MIMO's a good example because you have T5 and T6, but there's a height cap there of 35 feet, right?
Which we want to keep.
Which we want to keep. Miami 21 doesn't make specific reference of MIMO within it for each zoning district, right? It's all within Chapter 23. This works the same way, right? So all of those districts are still protected under this ordinance. As it relates to RTZ, that is a county ordinance, and those protections are not as certain as they would be under our ordinance. And also for Live Local, Live Local just recently amended its bill through House Bill. Give me 1 second. This is actually important. Give me 1 second. Through Senate Bill 1730, that specifies that nationally designated areas are exempt from Live Local. Well, MIMO happens to be locally designated. Okay, so you could still do a Live Local project potentially in MIMO. And as it relates to Live Local, just so that everyone has this information, right now we're at 55 projects that we've received citywide that are Live Local projects. And those projects are only providing 140% AMI. So again, one of the things behind this is to try to create a program that the development community can work under the Miami 21 standards.
And if I heard you correctly, the county, it's not clear whether RTZ applies in historic districts. It's not in the language per se, or?
I've not read it to be explicitly exempting historic districts specifically.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Chair, I will make the motion based upon what I was told on first reading.
Commissioner Rosado?
I do have a couple of requests. I know we talked about the NCDs being excluded, but what about parcels immediately adjacent to NCDs, right? So I happen to live in one of the NCDs, but the concern from my neighbors are the adjacent properties located along Coral Way, because those technically would be eligible, but those are of concern to my neighbors who front those properties. So I'd like to proffer that friendly amendment to that, to the motion. And the other thing is, there's a lot of confusion on this particular item. I've been approached, and I imagine we all have, by a number of people. And so if we could have, ideally by tomorrow morning, a layperson's explanation as to what this actually entails, that would be tremendously helpful. I've been approached by a number of neighborhood associations throughout the city, and especially folks in my district, and I need an easy way to explain this to them.
We can provide that. And just, I think it's also important to understand the layer of processes that are required to even come through this program. It's not just the simple, once this is approved, developers can come in with a T612 or T624 tomorrow, right? Like you have to have the land use. You have to go through the exception process. So with a master plan. So there's layers of this that's important to understand, and we can provide that information.
I have a motion. May I have a second?
Okay, sorry. I stepped up for a minute, and I was kind of, okay, so what are we voting on?
PZ6.
PZ6, okay, okay, I'm ready.
I have a motion. Second. All in favor?
And Chair, I'm sorry.
Aye.
I just want to make sure the mover is okay with all the amendments that are being proposed, the seconder, all the amendments being proposed. Good to go? Understood.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
As amended?
As amended.
Amended. Chair, can we go to the RE items that are
We
left?
have one more left in PZ8 was pulled.
Okay.
PZ8. Who pulled PZ8?
I did. I was just wondering if you could explain the percentages and the AMIs and how the workforce housing, and again, talk about the pressure of RTZ and Live Local and how this tries to actually keep development within our code so that we can control it, as opposed to losing the control and getting a much worse result in our city. I think that's very important, and I think our residents don't understand how that can happen.
Yeah, absolutely. So today we have a attainable mixed income program in Miami 21 that helps promote affordable housing. It provides several different flexibilities as it relates to setbacks, heights, and other items that Miami 21 has required. Because we know the impact of cost, both to land value and construction cost, right, to a project, just in general, let alone in affordable projects that are dealing with very thin margins. So this program is specific to the workforce housing aspect, right? And with what we've seen with Live Local, what we've seen with RTZ, is that they're pushing their version of workforce, but it's at a much higher AMI level, at 140% AMI. So what this has done is we've looked at, we've actually been working very closely with the District 5 office on a tiered approach to our workforce requirements, because we know that workforce incomes are not just at 140 and they're not just below 60. So what this does is allow for a range of AMI levels starting at 60% and less. 15% of the units of the development would be required. From 100% AMI and less, 25% of the units would be required. And then the last tiered would be from 120% AMI less at 10%, which amounts to 50% of the development's units would have to be in that tiered. And then you would be available to get these various flexibilities, the setbacks, lot coverage, those things, which again are similar to what we have in our affordable, attainable mixed income program, but we're just allowing it now more specific for the workforce program as well to compete with RTZ Live Local.
I've got, through the chair, I've got questions on this. I'd like to defer this because there's a couple of questions that I'm not clear on. But if you go ahead to vote, I'm going to go vote no. Unless you guys deferred, that's where I'm at. I was briefed on it, but I got a couple more questions that I wasn't clear on. I apologize.
There's a request to defer PZ8. So I have a motion to defer PZ8. I have a second. All in favor?
Chair, to what date? I apologize.
Which date?
July the
10th?
July the 10th is fine.
To the first meeting in July.
Yeah, okay with you guys.
Yeah, there seems to be a lot of confusion around this one as well, and folks are coupling them. I've received a number of emails coupling PC6 and PC8, and they're not that closely related. So
They're
I think
not
we
at
just
all.
need to clarify that for the public.
Okay. So I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
PZ8 has been deferred. Go back to RE 5 and 6. I see the police chief here.
Chief, I place this item on the agenda to ascertain from the administration areas of funding that we're going to need into next year's budget and several budgets after. As I was going over with you, the numbers we're coming up with is that we're around 300 police officers short right now. That's not including some that we've lost for different reasons, that we have to hire those replacements. As we discussed in the fourth year, since we're not going to hire everyone out of 100 that I'm proposing each year in the first year, we won't hire all 300 until the fourth budget cycle year. By that time, including increases that we would have had, we're probably looking at maybe 33 to 35 million a year. Initially, each year that we hire the first 100 is more. It's 16 million versus around 10, 11 million afterwards, because we're buying the initial car and all the initial equipment for the officers. I just want to have you on the record to see if I'm correct in what I am proposing to the administration and to this body as to additional officers that we need for the Miami Police Department to provide the security that we're obligated to for the protection of lives and properties in our city.
So, good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the Commission. Manny Morales, Chief of Police. Commissioner, just to give you a little bit of context to it, right? Right now, we're sitting with last year's amendment, we're sitting at 1390. Right now, we have about 42 officers in the field training program that will come online sometime before the end of this year, 28 of them coming at the end of this month. In the academy, we have another 40. So once you take those away, we have about 40 vacancies that we expect to fully fill before the end of this fiscal year and put them in the academy at some point, either before October or right after October. Looking at our ability to be able to put them through the academy, I think somewhere between 75 and 100 is the sweet spot where we're able to put them in the academy. Taking a look at an average of the last 4 or 5 years, we lose not only to the drop, resignations, and terminations, about 45 officers per year. So kind of keep track. As a matter of fact, last year, I know Commissioner Gabella brought up an item. He wanted to bring us up to staffing. I had the discussion in front of the commission that I didn't feel it was fiscally responsible for me to accept those bodies when I had about 80 vacancies yet to fill. So it would have been nice to have them in the table of organization and in our budgeted spots, but I wouldn't have been able in good faith to fill them. I think now we're in a position to do that. Kind of moving forward, we'll be able to get those. And if you kind of look at the city, just to let you know, we're in a fantastic spot. So it's not that there is a need for now, but there is a need to prepare for what Miami is to become, right? So we're sitting at a 17% reduction in Part 1 crimes. That's 40% less stolen cars. That's 20% less robberies from a number that was already a historic low last year. We're about to be 38% down in homicides come the 1st of July. So Our officers are doing well, but I'm looking at the city, how we're growing. Just a conservative estimate, probably about 7,000 dwelling units are coming into line sometime within the next couple of budget years. We need to prepare for that. And if you look at Miami 21, an estimate is that Miami has the potential to grow 10 times what it is now. 5 million folks. I don't think we'll get there, not in our lifetime anyways, or my lifetime, but I think that this is the beginning step to get us ready for what's to come.
I got a question, Chief. So, all right, so what we're doing is, with these numbers, we're just making up. We're not having a net gain. We haven't had a net gain yet, right?
Correct.
Okay.
I still got 40 vacancies as of right now.
But by the end of this fiscal year, those will be in the academy.
Correct.
My question now would be, what percent on a yearly basis of the new officers that you are hiring come certified already, meaning you don't have to send them through the academy? You could put them right into the field.
Yeah. Commissioner, a very small percentage of the officers we ended up hiring are certified officers that have already
10, 15, 20%?
I couldn't give you an exact number. I can get that from you. I'll have my staff in the back begin to look at that. But I can tell you the overwhelming majority of the officers that we hire are brand new recruits that we're putting through our own academy. And I'll be honest with you, that's the way we prefer. I know that the time to ready, or the time that these officers are willing to make a contribution to our staffing numbers on the street, it's a lot shorter when we hire certified officers. So it's 5 months if you hire certified officers versus 13 months if you hire a brand new recruit. But the teachings and the training that we give them in the academy turns a far superior police officer, in my humble opinion.
Can I just ask, at the end of that year, so what's that net going to be in terms of officers? What is that net number again, in the net gain?
So by the end of this year,
Yeah.
we'll be at 1390. By the end of this fiscal year, we should be able to have conditional
Oh, I
letters
know
of
that, but
employment.
what's the net gain? What in percentage terms or in numbers? What is the net gain? In other words, we replaced the guys that retired or quit or whatever have you. Replace those, and then we added through numbers. What is that number?
So we've already reached the officers that are going to leave force in the drop. It's unforeseen how many folks. So we've had about 17 or 18 individuals that have left the department this year. If the statistics hold and the averages hold, which is 44, we have another 30-something that are coming out. That would be on top of the 40.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Is the number,
I was going to ask if we had a motion.
well, before, I think we need to give
Go
more
ahead, go
answers.
ahead.
Is the numbers that I'm using, Chief, to budget 100 more officers? And by that I mean that you include within that budget, once they come out, the extra sergeants, the additional higher rank officers that you need for those officers that will be within your 300. But if we budgeted for 100 officers in this next fiscal budget beginning October 1st, and for the next several budgets, 100 more per year, until in the fourth year we have sufficient officers that will be the 300 that we need. Is that a fair number to propose?
That it's a doable number, and I think it's a number that's right around the sweet spot of what we're going to need based on the growth that we're seeing. Right on the 7,000 dwelling units that we mentioned does not account for any business developments. So the nightlife that we continue to experience, not only in the popularity of Brickell, the Grove, or in Wynwood, just the areas that we're seeing and the visitors coming to downtown, this will give us an accurate or an effective number of officers to be able to maintain the gains that we have now and continue to get even better.
All right, Chairwoman, I will be making a motion now to approve RE5.
Before the motion, can I ask a question, please? So the 100 officers that we're talking about, in dollar terms, what does that equal?
Roughly 21.6 million. So it costs for year one for a police officer $216,000. $1,000. That is $135,000 in salary and fringe benefits, plus $79,000 in change, I believe, is for equipment. So every 100 officers, you're looking at 21.6.
Initially,
Initially, first year.
but
Then it drops to the 135 because we took all the equipment. Now, it can fluctuate because, remember, we're counting in there a $55,000 police car with the air card for the laptop and everything else. So you can kind of account for or take into consideration that the first year they'll be in the academy and in training. We're not required contractually to give them a take-home vehicle till the 18 months, till they take in the department until they reach the end of their probationary period. So we can kind of shift those costs a little bit, so it will kind of fluctuate. But once you're into year 2, you would have to account for the second one.
let's break down those numbers, Chief. In equipment, car, and other equipment, what are we talking about per officer? That's a one-time expense.
So let me bring up those numbers real quick.
We had talked around 60,000 per officers before. It's obviously more if you looked into it a little further.
Sorry about that. Here we go. So the cost analysis or the cost breakdown. All right. You want me to go down the list real quick?
Yeah, please. If you would.
So just looking at the onboarding them. So the pre-employment polygraph exams, about $115. Pre-employment psychological, about $210. Pre-employment physical, about $582. The annual physical that would be mandatory right after their higher year and thereon is $707. The air card for the computer is $528. Yearly fuel cost calculated at current rates is about $5,700. Uniforms and accessories, $2,074. The bulletproof vest, $800. Equipment and safety supplies, flex cuffs, gloves, blanket, fire extinguisher, $3,300. The gun is $440. Taser is $1,700. Body-worn camera, $500. Radio is $6,000. Mobile digital computer, $3,500. The patrol vehicle is $55,000. So the total hiring cost will be $16,13, $15. Total equipment cost $79,656.
How much
the first
is
year
total
office?
equipment?
I'm sorry?
The total equipment?
$79,656. And the first year police officer salary and benefits is $135,307. So as you saw in there, obviously the gun, the taser, the body-worn camera, even though they have contractual amounts every year, is not as much as.
What is the first year salary for a police officer?
So the first year salary with the.
Just the first year salary.
Okay, so the first year salary is $67,066.
Okay.
Crime prevention is $2,700. Workers' comp. You want the fringe benefit or just the cost?
No. It's just the salary.
Okay, $67,066 is the cost for a police officer in the academy until he reaches probation of 18 months.
And we're paying, let's see, 120. We're paying.
The rest is benefits, right?
Rest is benefits.
Yeah, we're paying with the French benefits. It's 100% of the 67.
Basically, so the bulk of the cost is the retirement, which is $47,302
A year.
a year. $11,000 as an allocation to the health trust, and another $1,000 to Medicare.
Okay. Well, it's a lot more than what we had discussed before.
Yes, sir.
But if those are the costs, they are the cost. My motion stands. If there are no further questions of the police chief.
Yeah, I did. I had just a couple of quick questions. Has there been, and maybe this isn't for the moment or today, but has there been any analysis for using things where we don't need the level of training and expertise and involved in a police officer, like sometimes they use with block-by-block security, other contracts that can supplement the police department so that we're helping to lower our cost as well?
So for a very long time, we've had the Public Service Aid Program, which allows men and women that are not necessarily comfortable with carrying a firearm, but they're interested in serving their community. They perform tasks such as composing investigative reports, doing traffic crashes, issuing citations. Right now we have 65. They are a great force multiplier. They help us out. We also have a proposal that we're looking at to bring some folks as part-time employees, right? So mainly retired folks that still have a desire to serve, finding out a flat fee, bring them in as a 29-hour-a-week employee to do some of those jobs to alleviate some of the duties that a regular police officer would do. For example, in the front desk of all our police stations, we have a full uniformed individual. Sometimes for the transporting of prisoners, when the detention officers, which we have 12 budgeted spots, only 9 are occupied at this time, they can help us transport. So we're also looking at other ways to kind of bring in some sort of enhancement to our current manpower.
And my last question was, do you do any kind of comparative analysis between cities our size and other cities our size, our crime rate and our police force numbers?
So policing models kind of vary.
Yeah.
If you take a look at New York City, I think there are about 4.2 officers per every 1,000 residents. We're right now just below 3, which is about what the southern model is, but it kind of varies. If you look at Chicago, I think they're comparable to New York. Other cities our side, like Tampa, they're closer to us. They're probably at 2.8, 2.7.
Yeah, but Chief, if I can interrupt for a second, that 3.0 is the national average. That doesn't include all the people that come into our city on a daily basis that throws our population way high to work here. It doesn't include all the tourists that we get and visitors that we get as a prime hub for tourism and visitors that come to conventions, business gatherings, etc. So that number is strictly for residents. That's why we need a higher number, not just planning to the future for the additional 20, maybe 5,000 additional people that we definitely will get in the next 3 years, but that's also for the much higher numbers that our population goes up during the day by at least 100,000 and probably more of people that come to work in the city of Miami. And I don't think that even includes the sizable amount of visitors, like we discussed, that we have in tourists staying all over our city. So many of the hotels we have and other places.
Absolutely. That is just a commonly used best practice number that is it's our best guide to kind of say, even though I would go to add that every city is kind of different, right? Yeah. So you have different needs
that's why I mentioned
based
that,
on the cities.
because we are different than most other cities in that respect.
Chairwoman, I have a comment and a request. First of all, I want to say I wholeheartedly support the motion that's being put forth. You have my full support on that. As part of the budget process, and so I don't think this needs to be an amendment on my part per se, but I'd also love to have a better understanding of how we can better employ technology in order to supplement our police force. And what I mean by that is that we know that technology has caught up in so many ways, and I'm sure we're using it more and better than we did 5, 10, 20, 30 years ago. So as part of the budget process, I'd love to hear if there are investments in technology that we can make that also are great for crime deterrence, right? I was able to take a tour of the headquarters downtown, and I saw what we have at our disposal, and I wonder if there are additional investments that we can make that would be tactical towards bringing down crime even further. You all are doing a wonderful job, but I'd love to support you in whatever way that I can, at least.
Thank you, sir. And listen, just kind of as a matter of discussion, just to give you an example, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, they're about similar size to Miami, obviously different issues, but they're in the midst, a while back, the state put in a mandate. They implemented a 2% sales tax. I'm not advocating for any type of increase here. However, it came attached to bringing the manpower from, I want to say, 1,500 to around 1,750, right? So you're looking at a similar sized city who probably doesn't have the specific challenges as Miami, even though they have their own. And I hope Chief Jeffrey Norman is not watching. I'm not throwing you under the bus by any means, but that's just to kind of give you an idea of what a city our size is kind of playing around with, the numbers that they're kind of looking at and contemplating.
Thank you, Chief.
So here's my question. Usually we do this when budget time comes around, right? So my question is, where are we getting the money to? Because I was told last time that we didn't have the money to do this. Now I guess all of a sudden the money has been found. My question is, where are we?
It's part of the motion for the manager to find the money and bring it back to us.
I'm all for it. I'm all for it. I mean, I'm pro-police, I'm all for it. But my question is, last year I asked for this, and I didn't know I could make a motion and the city manager was going to follow through. I was told that we didn't have the money for this last year. Now all of a sudden we found the money. Can you enlighten the city manager where we're getting the money from? Because last year I was told that we couldn't do it. It wasn't in the budget.
I heard the police chief stated why he could not accept the additional officers. So there's no way that he could have brought him on board.
Well, I heard that part. But I asked about the money part last year, and it was told to me that we didn't have the money for it. Apart from what the chief said.
Yeah, so the nature of the item before you is for us to figure out how we would fund this. We certainly didn't have the availability in the budget last year. I can't give you a guarantee we have it this year, but we will certainly do as requested, as given instruction to do. We are evaluating a number of options just in general with the budget with regards to obviously not only on the expense side, but on the revenue side as well. Understanding the sensitivity of the millage, right? We don't want to impact the residents directly, but we are looking at other alternatives as it relates to revenue. And obviously all of that will get put into a cooker and we'll figure out what we can and what we can't afford. I mean, ultimately, we don't have the ability to outspend our revenue stream. So, we'll keep in line with that. It's good fiscal policy.
So what we're voting on is for you to explore.
Correct.
To give you a directive. We're not voting on anything. We're voting on you to
It's
explore.
the resolution is very specific, that there's very specific parameters, right? 100 officers a year. And then what that would take in terms of being able to budget for it and fund it.
So we're giving you a directive on where to find that funding possible.
Correct.
Correct? That's what we're doing this for. Okay, thank you.
I have a motion and a second.
Oh, Chair, I'm sorry, I don't have a second.
Commissioner Rosado.
Second.
Okay.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
The next one is RE6, Mr. Manager. This is yours. It's a resolution to establish a relief program for the City of Miami residents who are 65 and older to refund ad valorem taxes paid by them and those that have homestead properties in the City of Miami.
It's sponsored by Commissioner Rosado.
Both. Yes, he is.
Yes,
He's a
yeah,
co-sponsor.
co-sponsored this one. This is something that I was asked for on the campaign trail, door after door after door.
I'd be happy to co-sponsor it as well.
Well, it's one that I think we all are in favor of. It's directing the city manager to analyze the financial impact the Senior Citizens Tax Relief Program on the City of Miami revenues based on 100% refund, based on 50% refund, and based on 25% refund. Once he has those numbers of how many senior citizens they will affect that have homestead, he will come to us and break it down to us. If we choose 100, we choose 50% or 25%, what numbers we're going to be dealing with.
We will have those numbers available to you before the end of July.
And when is the first budget hearing that we're going to have?
September 13th.
Okay. Okay, so the end of July would be a good time to have it.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Gentlemen, at this time, we have an attorney-client session. I will recess the meeting.
Can we just finish? I think we got very little
Okay.
left.
We don't have very little left. We have,
Can I just say something for the record real quick before in case I'm not here after the meeting? So I said earlier, that I would resign as Bayfront Trust, but on
change mine.
Bayfront Trust, yes, as chairman. But I think I owe it to the employees there an explanation of what just happened, okay? I have a responsibility. So at the spur of the moment, that is my intention, okay?
Right, but it doesn't, until you put it in writing, it's not real, so.
Well, I won't put it in writing until the second reading, when you
Good.
guys finally
Yeah,
have your.
makes
say.
sense.
But I think I owe it to the employees to give them an explanation of what might occur and what is occurring. Okay, that is my responsibility. So I just wanted to put that on the record, please. Thank you.
Okay. The attorneys have been here all day. We're racking up fees, so we're going to, and it's after 5 o'clock, or yes, after 5 o'clock, so we're going to take the attorney-client session, and that way, if our discussion items go long, we can get that out of the way. So we're going to recess now.
To give you a relief, I have a discussion item, DI 6. I'll defer this until the first budget hearing.
I can also defer DI 4.
Hold on a second. Okay, so I need a motion to defer DI 4.
Okay, can we,
DI
okay,
6.
Hold on, you're confusing Todd.
so we'll start with DI4 first.
Yes,
DI4 is being deferred till when?
To the next meeting in the 10th, I think.
July 10th. May I have a motion?
Motion?
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Commissioner Carollo, you
DI 6 defer to the first budget hearing. in
September 13th.
Yes,
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
move.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
I don't know how much more you have left. That
You
you
have
think-
Madam
two
Chair?
big ones.
Madam Chair,
Yes?
we do have the auditors here for a presentation. And it'll take literally 2 minutes and then they can
Come
just
on.
go.
I mean, well,
I
I'm
mean, it's
sorry.
up to you.
No,
Just
I'm
don't
sorry.
forget.
I thought we can just accept their report from our briefings. No? Or they have to do it? Where are they? Where are they? We can go to the attorney-client session. Are you sure? No, I don't see anybody walking. If you want them to be, before you ask, they should be here. Hello, guys.
Good afternoon, Commissioners.
If you were sitting here this morning, I would have taken you this morning.
Oh.
I didn't see you.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Well, thank you for taking us now. We'll be presenting the results of the 9/30/2024 audit. We issued an opinion on financial statements of the city, as well as the audit of the city's grant programs and a management letter required by the state of Florida. In all instances, those reports were unmodified or clean opinions, so nothing to bring to your attention. We had access to all books and records of the city. There were no audit adjustments to the process, and we had no disagreements with management through the audit process. With that, we'll take any questions you have.
Thank you.
Chair, I'm sorry if I get the speaker's name.
Your name,
Your name
sir?
for the record.
Anil Harris with RSM.
Do we have any questions?
I got my briefing with him. I heard him.
Right,
The
so-
gentleman. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and Brett Friedman with RSM as well.
Okay. Matt, do I need to accept their? Nope.
Good to go.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Okay, so we will recess now for the attorney-client
What,
session.
what
Chair.
do we have left?
Read a statement into the record.
Yeah, I'll read the statement.
Oh, wait, we have DI 1, DI 7, and 8.
DI, so we have left?
1, 7, and 8.
And you could probably defer DI1 now since that person is not here.
Okay, may I have a motion to defer DI 1?
Move.
I got a motion?
Second.
Second. All in favor?
And that'll be
Aye.
to July 10th.
Which is the next one?
July 10th.
7 and 8.
DI2 we just did, right?
Yeah.
What else do we have?
7 and 8.
7 and 8. Okay, would you like to defer 8?
Defer 8.
Yeah?
Do I have a motion?
It's a motion, it's a second.
All in favor?
Aye.
To the
July
last meeting
10th.
in July.
Last meeting in July?
Because you're just
Understood.
piling up July 10th.
July 24th.
Okay.
And 7 will be real quick. It's real quick. I don't need to get into it. I just want simply, it's an up and down. Bring up the fact that I'd like for this body to instruct the administration to have a vote of the property owners in the DDA district and of the commercial property owners also, residential and commercial, if they want to pay taxes, extra taxes or not. I'm not taking sides here on whether they should vote one way or another. All that I'm saying is this is established in 67. It's been around now for 58 years. Just give the people an opportunity to vote if they want to pay the extra taxes or not. And break it up, residential versus commercial, because they're two distinct areas. That's all.
I don't think this is real quick. The DDA, like many of the other entities, has just been a target in some ways. Omni CRA went through that. We just saw Bayfront Park Trust. In our office that represents that region, we do not hear people angry and upset. Some of them pay $100 a year. They pay more for streaming services than they do with their DDA. Some people believe that there are bloated line items. DDA has a process for that. Does it need reform? They're open to it. I can see that, yeah, sure, reform is probably something that is needed. And I just don't think that this is the way to do it. When I've talked to Commissioner Higgins, she says her office doesn't have, any of these issues as well. So this isn't something that's bubbling from residents. This is something that is largely brought by a target. And I don't think we should be doing that with our residents. I think they have an avenue where they can give their feedback and changes can be made. And if that doesn't work, then I think we should entertain something.
Then I think you're in agreement with me. Let the residents vote on it. What's the big problem? They're paying extra taxes and nobody in the city pays. And the downtown, last I heard, belongs to the whole city. Belongs to Little Havana, El Apata, Liberty City, Overtown, Little Haiti, Flagami. It belongs to all of Miami. Why should only one portion of Miami pay taxes for a downtown authority to spend? Let the people decide.
Commissioners,
if you're right, then they'll vote for it.
Commissioners, this is not quick because
It's
I'm
not.
sure my
It's
other
not gonna be.
colleagues would want to weigh in. So let's go to the attorney-client session. And
Let's defer it.
Yes, could we defer it?
if there's a motion to defer,
Motion to
Yes.
defer.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
To what date?
Can it, next meeting?
July
can be
10th?
Can it be brought up, at July 10th? You choose the time.
Yeah,
Okay.
and Madam Chair, just for the record, I wanted to say that assessments are everywhere when you're receiving special services. I live in an area where we have an assessment because we have guardhouse security, certain things. So I also think there needs to be an understanding of what people are getting and what people are paying. And that's why I think this needs a bigger conversation.
Well,
So
I don't think I've seen any guardhouses in downtown Miami or Brickell.
Seen a lot of
I
security.
had a motion and a second,
Wait
and
a minute,
everybody
hang on,
voted
hang
to
on.
defer.
I just want to say, so if you need more time, then shouldn't we do it instead of the July 10th meeting, the next meeting, so you have time to, I'm just saying.
July 10th meeting. That's
No, not the July 10th
26th.
meeting, the other meeting, July 20th.
24.
24.
Well,
they
July
have
24th might be busier because our last meeting, I think July 10th, will be lighter. So July
24
10th
is
should be the
better.
meeting.
Just
Okay,
more time.
we already voted for it to be July 10th, so we're going to leave
No,
it.
no. We voted, and then he said July 10th. I voted for July 24.
24 was never stated at the time.
Okay,
We
well, I'm
said
stating
July
it now.
10th.
It's my motion, I'm stating it now.
Well, then you have to bring it back to vote down the
All
other
right, I
motion.
bring it
Hold on,
back.
New motion.
hold on. We're fighting over a date here. Todd, what was passed?
So for me, the clarification was for July 10th.
So we voted for July 10th,
Okay,
according to the
that's
clerk.
fine with you, Commissioner?
Okay. So at this time, the meeting is in recess so that we can
The
go to the,
recess?
it's
Isn't
a
it-
recess, no.
There
because
needs
I
to
have
be a
come-
statement read into the
Yeah, let
record, I
me-
believe, before you recess.
Go
Yeah.
ahead.
All right, thank
And then
you.
I have to come back to close the meeting after
We're
attorney-client.
actually done.
Sort of,
On
yes. And I have to come back to close the meeting after attorney-client session.
go?
Yes, yes. Okay.
On June 17, 2025, under the provisions of Section 286.011, parentheses 8 Florida statutes, I requested that this city commission meet in private to discuss pending litigation in the case of William O. Fuller, Martin Pinilla II, the Barlington Group LLC, Calle Ocho Marketplace LLC, Yo Amo Calle Siete LLC, Little Havana Arts Building LLC, Little Havana Arts Building 2 LLC, Tower Hotel LLC, Brickell Station LLC, Piedras Villas LLC, Futurama LLC, El Shopping LLC, Beatstick LLC, Viernes Culturales, Cultural Fridays Inc., Little Havana Bungalows LLC, and LHAB Trust LLC versus City of Miami, Joe Carollo in his individual capacity, Arthur Noriega in his individual capacity, Victoria Mendez in her individual capacity, case number 23-CV-24251-RAR, pending in the United States District Court, Southern District of Florida, to which the city is presently a party. The City Commission approved my request and will now at approximately 5:20 p.m. commence a private attorney-client session under the parameters of Section 286.011, parentheses 8. The subject of the meeting will be confined to settlement negotiations or strategy sessions related to litigation expenditures. This private meeting will conclude approximately 1 hour later. The session will be attended by the members of the City Commission, which include Chairwoman Christine King, Commissioners Miguel Angel Gabella, Damian Pardo, and Rafael Ralph Rosado, City Attorney George K. Weissong III, Deputy City Attorney Kevin R. Jones, Assistant City Attorney Supervisor Eric J. Eves, Assistant City Attorney Margaret Snyder, and outside counsel Raquel A. Rodriguez, Esquire, Angel Cortinas, Esquire, and Jonathan Caskell, Esquire. A certified court reporter will be present to ensure that the session is fully transcribed and the transcript will be made public upon the conclusion of the above-cited ongoing litigation. At the conclusion of the attorney-client session, the regular commission will be reopened and the person chairing the commission meeting will announce the termination of the attorney-client session. Thank you.
And for the record, the meeting is in recess.